start by sharing my screen and sort of go over the gist for the day. Let's see here. This is our summer essential training, meaning that we decided to mix things up a little bit for the summer. So we've changed our program just a little bit. So we're going to go over some of those changes, but also just sort of make sure that you guys feel ready, prepared to start next week for our 6-week summer program. Our kiddos are super excited. They're coming in later this week to grab all their supplies, all the stuff that they need. And we're so excited to have you guys come back this summer with us as well. So first off, some housekeeping. Please keep yourself on mute while the presenters are speaking. It's just really nice to keep the audio nice and clear. We will be recording, as they just stated. So this training session will be recorded and it's going to be sent to everybody who registered. So those who couldn't join us, so that everybody's on the same page, right? We want to make sure all the same information is getting out there. So you will get a link to this training so that you can also go back and look at it again if you need to for your record. Adjust to the gallery view to see everybody when you're in your breakout rooms. So we are going to go into breakout rooms for part of the session, do rounds of our Lexia substitutes. So looking at everybody's faces is really nice. And to get there, what you have to do is go to the top right-hand corner, click gallery view instead of speaker view, and then you'll be able to see everybody. We will have time for questions and answers at the end of the training session. But we are going to put them into the chat function and then we'll answer your questions one by one. Obviously, if we go way over, because there's tons of questions, we'll get to you guys by email later on. All right, this is the agenda. We're doing the first part here. So this is the welcome, the going over the training agenda, going to talk about the breakdown of the tutoring session. We are going to do those rounds for the Lexia substitutes. So your site directors have come up with some really awesome substitutes for Lexia because we're trying to make it a little bit more interactive for our kiddos this summer, trying to get them off of the regular programming here and do something different, kind of spice things up a little bit. And you're going to remain in your breakout room. So you aren't going to move, but the site directors will move and you'll get 4 options of Lexia substitutes. We will do what's called the MyOn, which is a new program. It's for our read aloud. We'll talk about why we're switching. This is strictly for distance learning, but we are moving away from Epic and we're moving into a new program called MyOn. And there's many reasons why, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. And then we'll do our question and answers with all of our staff back here together. And then we'll do a wrap up, which is basically just me saying, thank you, like I always do. But we will come back together and make sure that we answer all of your questions before we say goodbye. So before I move on, I just wanted to take a moment to just sort of notice that there's so many people on this call. And there's so many of you that have been with us for a very long time, but we also have some new faces as well. So we have all of our fellows and our interns and our readers to leaders joining us on this training. So you might see some new faces this summer, but they are here to help support us. They are running our clubs this summer and we're super excited to have them with us for the summer programming. All right. This is what the tutoring hour looks like. It has changed a little bit. So back by popular demand, we have gone back to 60-minute sessions. We are not at 45-minute sessions anymore. We are going to do a Lexia substitute for those 10 minutes at the beginning or at the end. Again, you guys can kind of mismatch where you guys want to put these. This is a recommended framework. So as long as you hit each of these within your tutoring session, we don't really care how long you do them or what order you do them in, but we do want to make sure that we're hitting all of these components. So the Lexia substitutes we're going to go over today, but there's many options. I know some of you are so creative in thinking of things. We're just going to give you some options of what you guys can do with your kiddos over the summer. And maybe you want to do something different every single time. Totally up to you. Read aloud. So that is still, right, it's kind of like the meat and potatoes of our program is the way that I see it. It's really the fun part. for our kids, and I think for our tutors as well. And we're going to switch gears to Myon. It's a different program, but it's still this vast, reading material library of books and articles and things that our kiddos can read for the read aloud portion. For those of you who are going to be in person, it's a little bit different. We aren't going to use Myon for in person. Obviously, we're going back to the hard copies of books. If you're only in person this summer, you don't have to stay for the Myon training, but just a rule of thumb here and just a hint, we are possibly going to continue Myon into the fall. So if you have any intention of doing distance learning with us into the fall, I recommend staying on and getting that training on what the Myon looks like. Workbook, yeah, we're still doing workbooks. That's a 20-minute time frame. And then obviously choice time is still around. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to pass it over to Haley, and she just has a little something to say about our book bank.
Yes, thank you, Natasha. And again, welcome everybody. This is absolutely wonderful to see all of you today on this very warm summer day. So thank you for logging in and joining us this afternoon. I just wanted to update everybody on the call that as a reminder, thrilled to announce our book bank is open. We are open 5 days a week from 12 to 4. So very excited to be back in the space, very excited to be back in the building. The energy is just palpable, and it's just wonderful to be back. So just a reminder, book bank is open 12 to 4. If you do have a donation or know of somebody that is looking to donate books to NHR, that is still by appointment. And that can be done by setting up, either giving a call over here to Bristol Street or sending an email to books@newhavenreads.org. But just wanted to kind of to highlight that we're very proud to be back in the building and running our book bank operations as well.
How's everyone doing today? For those of you that don't know me, I know many of the people here, but my name is Carol Sarmiento. I am the site director of the Willow Street site in East Rock, and I have been with New Haven Reads for 9 years now. So I'm excited to share this new component of our hour with you. So I only have one. It's not going to take a ton of time, but I can take questions for sure if you have any. So I am going to share my screen now, maybe. So this one's called the category game. And I don't know if I can make it any bigger. Let me see. Zoom a little bit. Okay. So this one's called the category game. We used to do this at Willow Street. I took it from a game that was called, a list. I forget the name of the game, but it was I think it was Name the List. This is really, really fun. I would put the words on a sheet of paper, post it, and the kids would come by, and even the tutors would come by, and they'd read the words, and then they'd have to think about what they all had in common. What was the category that this was supposed to be? The thing, what you will need for this game. So you'll have this, I put it in a PowerPoint presentation. So if anybody would like this, you could email me at carol@newhavenreads.org, and I'd be happy to email it back to you. I did send it to all my Willow Street tutors in the latest, actually the email before last, where I gave you all the links. It is attached there, so you'll have it there. But what you need is a whiteboard or a piece of paper that you can list some or all of these items from the category. If the student's a little bit older, you can have them write it down. You can have them, use their whiteboard, share it, and have them write it down. And then you want to see if the student can guess the category. So I'll show you some of them here. So let's go on to, okay. So I would post something like lemon drop, chocolate bar, lollipop, gummy bear, jelly bean, candy cane, peanut butter cup, peanut brittle, gumdrop, butterscotch, right? So we post that up. Now, of course, the kids always they'll get this one. This is super easy, but this may be one of them you want to use with your younger students. Now, the big thing with this game is that it's a great critical thinking activity. And I read an article, I don't even know how long ago, when I first started this game at Willow, I read an article that says that the longer the kids dwell on thinking about this, the more it helps their brain to grow, to develop. So don't just feel like you got to give them the answer if they don't get it. You can always add clues. Some of the some of the cards, you can see they put more clues on the bottom, or you could add your own. But, you know, think about this and talk about this. And, you know, say they say, oh, things that are yellow, you know, for lemon drop, they see the first one, you know, how our kids see the first thing and they jump at it. Lemon drop and things that are yellow. No, let's keep reading, you know, as a chocolate bar, is that yellow? That's not yellow. So, you know, try to get them to think about this. These are a lot of fun with them. I'll go down to, so there's two different types of cards. There's a list and there's a name the category, but I would use them in the same way. I just use, they're there for the words. You know, items commonly found in the kitchen. You know, you can go down and see if they can guess the category on that one, and then see if they can add more to the list. That's another fun thing to do with them. If you have time and they want to give you a list and have you guess the category, that's really great too. Another fun thing to do with it. So either one that you use, name the category or list, just use it as the name the category thing. So obviously for this one that says breakfast food, you're not going to say breakfast foods. You're just going to start giving them breakfast foods. For the younger students, there are some easy ones in here. So if you, but you can always make up your own. You can do simple things like colors or things that are hot, things that are cold, you know, anything, cartoons, whatever you think that they're going to be able to get within reason. And I have 8 slides of these, and there's 6 on each. So I was trying to think, like, for 5 weeks, what you could use, like dog breeds. That's a fun one. You know, and it gets them talking too. Oh, I have a dog. What kind of dog do you have? You know, just engages them. So I like this. If they don't use their whiteboard, if you just read, if you're reading them off, or if you write them down and show them, then, you know, you're going to be looking at each other and talking to each other. So I like that interaction as well.
All right, I'll let Janelle take it away when she is ready.
Hello. I am Janelle. I'm the Dixwell site director. So our activity at Dixwell is going to be very similar to something we used to do in person called Mystery of the Week. We're going to have to modify it and probably be Mystery of the Day. And for the kids that will be online, you'll be given 3 leveled questions. So you'll be able to pick the question that's appropriate for your student based on their ability level. And you'll be able to pick from a list of online resources that are pre-approved. And you guys will work together to figure out the trivia question. And for those of you that would be in person, you'll be able to select from books that are already pre-picked for you. So I had a few fun questions that we could try together. So the first one, oh, it's not letting me type. The first one is, what is George Washington's middle name? And you can use any resource, not Wikipedia. And then you can put it in the chat when you're done, or you can raise your hand and unmute.
Janelle, will you be providing the questions and the trivia questions to the tutoring pairs?
So they'll be posted. They'll be either posted at the beginning of the tutoring hour online, or they'll be on a board in person.
Got it.
So let's see. I don't have any guesses yet, I don't think, in the chat. Okay, Ellen, you can unmute if you want.
He doesn't have one.
Yeah, and Child got it too. He doesn't have one. So we're going to switch it up. And let's switch George Washington to George Foreman. And try to use a different source than whatever one you just used. Okay, Ellen's pretty quick. She got Edward. Edward, yes, yes, yes. Anybody disagree? Anybody find anything different?
You should ask about George Foreman's children.
Oh, yes. I was telling the other group, I'm taking suggestions for questions. I'll definitely take that one. That would be fun. How many George Foremans are there?
Right.
All right. So let's see. What's another one? The last one I did was let me just delete. Now the other group had a little difficulty with this. So I don't know if I'll use it with the kids, but what does ersatz mean? Can you use it in a sentence?
It's like a fake copy. The vendors on the corner of 49th and Lexington were selling ersatz, how do you pronounce it? Ersatz Louis Vuitton bags.
Oh, I like your sentence. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Ersatz.
I think it's spelled ERSATZ.
Ah, that's yes. I knew I was doing it wrong. I knew something was wrong there. But so if you were a student, you would get a bonus point for catching that kind of thing. But yeah, it's meant to get the kids excited about researching and learning how to use resources. There were a few questions in person that we did that were very source specific. So an example was one time we used pictures of sign language symbols, and the kids had to decode the message. And in person, we have this whole shelf of books. And a few kids, they went to the illustrated dictionary to look, which was like, you're on the right track. We need some pictures, but what kind of pictures? So you would have to figure out that you need the sign language dictionary. So it's important for the students to learn what kind of resources they need to use and when. And somebody else asked me for the younger kids, how would that work? But for the littlest of the littles, we usually do very easy questions. Something like, what colors do red and blue make together? And you'd say purple, and then we would say, okay, can you name some things that are purple? Let's write them out. Let's practice. What are some things that you can name that are purple? Can you point to things around the room, or do you have anything in your room? You'd say online, that type of thing. Just multimodal, getting you to think in different kinds of ways about one particular question. And there will be different level questions, as I said before, for you to pick from.
Thrilled. And here is Miss Audra.
Okay, yay, I'm in a new room. All right, friends. So I have 3 websites that I'm going to share with you. I'll put them in the chat. And if you lose, you can bookmark them as soon as I put in the chat, like open it up, bookmark it. But if you lose it, then your site director also has it in their email and they can forward it to you. So I'm going to share my screen. And we'll start with my favorite. This website I actually use for a ton of different things, but I'm showing you this website particularly for the get to know you questions. So this is a really good way to break the ice. Your student is more than likely going to be new to you. You're new to them. Let's start with some get to know you questions. And this could be a good way to just get them chatting, get them talking with you,
or they can use their whiteboard and write their responses down. So then we're working on speaking in complete sentences, spelling, punctuation, grammar, all of those things. So do you sleep with any toys or blankets at night? Conversation is starting. They can answer verbally or they can use their whiteboard. Or we can go into more in-depth questions. What do you do when you're sad? If someone dropped you off in a city in a foreign country where you didn't speak the language with no money, possessions, or acquaintances of any kind, and you couldn't reach out to anyone at home, what would you do first? Now, that was a really long question, but some of these more in-depth questions, you can use them literally to start an essay with them. So if the student finds the question really interesting and they want to kind of like expand on it, you can even have them open up a Google Doc, start a Google Doc, or start a word, open up a word processing app. Well, the student would be doing this, and then you guys can start to like make a story or just have them write about it. So it can be really light, again, get to know you, or we can have some of those longer questions, and you can work on that across sessions. Like, let's go back to your essay from last week and just work on that continuously each time. So for the get to know you, if you're working in person, you will want to like look at this website beforehand and just jot down a few questions that you want to take with you. But if you're working with your student online, you can just bookmark your website and then you can pull them up and you'd be, going through and looking at questions and you guys are chatting. Again, verbal responses, or they can use their whiteboard to answer. I also use this website for Pictionary. So definitely go through it, find other fun things that you want to do. It will generate literally things that you can draw. So next we have, am I on the homepage? Yes. Uh-oh. Spelling bee word list going into the chat. So very simple concept. This website literally just gives you words that you can give them to spell by grade level. So you may have a student who's in 5th grade. Maybe they don't need 5th grade words just yet, and they'll never know. You can scroll on up and give them 3rd grade words instead. So you just click on the list, scroll down, and here they are. There's all the spelling words. So again, they can answer verbally, or they can write their answers on their whiteboard or in their notebook. You can extend it by having them use the words in a sentence. You can have them come up with words that rhyme with that word. Pretty simple, really easy, just spelling bee words. And the last one is Word Maker. Putting it in the chat. Okay, so what I use this website for, you'll type in a word. This is my word of the day, troublesome. There are 705 different words that can be made from the word troublesome. So this can be a challenge that they have all summer long with you. If we know that there are 705 possibilities, let's see how close we can get to 700. And they can just work on it a little each time during each session. You can also have it kind of like a competition between the two of you and see who can come up with the most words each session. For shorter words, I think the other one I used was fantasy, and that one only has 43. So it would depend on the word. You can adjust the challenge if it's a student who you know is going to have trouble not meeting that. I mean, I don't know anybody who can get 700 words in one session, but if you want to make it easier for them, let's say this word only has 43 possibilities and they can probably get 20, 25. So just adjust for your student. But this is another thing that you can do. And this is also something that can be done during choice time as well. So it's up to you when you would like to do it at the beginning. Nice icebreaker, especially the get to know you questions. I would highly suggest that for like your first and second session with the student at the beginning. You can use it in the middle to kind of break it up. If you've already done 20 minutes of reading, stick it in there. Or if they want to just go straight reading and then right into the workbook, you'd be doing it at the end. And it kind of seems like you've had 20 minutes of choice time, which they might like. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, great.
Yeah, I have a quick question, Audra.
Mhm.
For the last website that you showed us, does that have to be real words, or would it be possible for the student to put in possibly their full name?
Ooh, let's try that. All right, so let's put my name in. Okay, it's taken nonsense words too, 71 different possibilities.
It sounds like it's actually the same game that we saw from our first speaker, remember? Because they had, she said, you know, you'd give them a phrase and you'd make words from it. So it's the same thing. I mean, it's a good I mean, I know the kids at Science Park love it.
Yeah, they'd spend a lot of time on this.
Yeah, you know, there was one word.
Yeah, put it on the board and then they
Put
try
on
to
the board
figure it
and they loved it. I loved it.
And that gives you an answer key to that, right? Thank you, Audra.
You're very welcome. So I have 2 more minutes before I'm going to get pulled, but if you guys have questions, broader questions about other parts of the tutoring session, you can ask that here as well. Do my best to answer.
So just quickly, so I think then if I'm working online, I can still go to these websites and just put it on a whiteboard and just do it that way. We don't need to use it on the computer.
Right, so you wouldn't need a whiteboard. They'd be answering on their whiteboard.
I know, but I would need to write down like, true, but I would need to, you're right, not on a whiteboard, but I would write down my question for myself and just pose it to them and then they would write it down.
Right, right. Yeah, so since
So-
so for the Get to Know You website, you can go through and pull your questions beforehand or just leave it open because you wouldn't be sharing your screen, they can't see it.
Right,
So you can still have your window open and talk to them.
right. The other thing they loved, maybe somebody that they loved at Science Park is just unscrambling words.
Oh, yeah.
Like they love the because every day there'd be a, you know, a scrambled word and then they would have to unscramble it. They like that.
Right. Yeah. Unscramble is another great one. Of course, the longer the word, the more challenging. But, you know, if they've had like a challenging kind of day, then we want to give them an easier word so they feel more successful and on a good note.
Hopefully you guys all learned some new fun strategies and techniques of what you guys can do for Lexia and substitute of Lexia, but maybe even, you know, bringing those into choice time or at any point during your sessions with your kiddos to sort of, you know, if you're seeing that their attention levels going down, maybe you want to do a fun game or one of these things just to sort of spice it up a little bit, right? Make it a little bit more fun. Before you get back into doing workbook, right? We all see that when workbook comes around, their shoulders get all like, oh no, not workbook. So hopefully it was helpful. We will be sending out, you know, this link so you guys can go back to them to be able to get some of the information again, but also if there's any sort of PowerPoints or presentations that the site staff were using, we'll send that out to you guys as well. So you have that PDF record of all of the information. So I'm going to pass it over to Haley, and she's going to talk to all of us about Myon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Natasha. So let me start to share my screen. All right. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you. I can't see everybody when I'm sharing my screen, so that's helpful. So welcome to the introduction to Myon. I understand during distance learning, we had previously been using Epic with some limitations. So we explored a new resource, and actually one of our students was using Myon through school and was using it to a certain degree in our program and caught our attention, and we did a bit more research about it, and it's absolutely wonderful. So Myon is the program that we are going to pilot this summer. We secured a subscription to pilot this program, see how it works for our students and works within our distance learning model. But similar to Epic, our students will have access to digital books ranging, very exciting, from pre-K all the way through high school. I know we were somewhat limited on our choices in Epic, but this program allows for a lot more different many different more levels for our students to access based on what might be best for him or her. And similar to previous programs, every child will have a unique NHR login, and they can either choose from the books that are presented to them once they log in, or our site teams will also be assigning books directly to them based on their level. And what's really great is Myon will track the number of books the students finished, the number of pages they read, and how long they were reading. So we're getting a host of information for our students during the distance learning program. What's important here is Myon created a specific portal or URL. So there is a website specific to the New Haven Reads account. And that's going to be shared with students, and they can only access their login when they're at that specific website. So it's not something the students can find online by searching Myon. They need to be shared. The site directors will share this with them and their families directly. And we're going to encourage them to bookmark it or save it to their favorites because their login won't work anywhere else. So to get started, the students are just going to click on I'm a student in this screen. And what's important to note is the first time they log into Myon, the very first time they log into their session, they're going to be prompted to take an interest inventory. And this then sets up Myon to provide students with suggestions based on their likes, their preferences. What kind of books do they like to read? What topics do they like to read about? And Myon Online says students are more motivated readers when the material they read are aligned to their interest and abilities. So it's that hook for them. Just remember when they're doing the interest inventory, make sure your student clicks on save so we can keep that information up to date. So also unique to Myon is there's kind of two strands to it. There's a version for our younger students, and the setup is just, it looks a little bit different. So the interest inventory in a quick snapshot here presents different categories, and your student will be able to choose a smiley face if they really like graphic novels and cartoons. If it's not of interest, they can click on the sad face and so on and so forth. Whereas for our older kids, they have a rating scale from less interest up to most interest. They can also at any time update their interest inventory. There is a section in their dashboard that they're able to do that. But the first time they log in, this is what they'll be asked to complete. Also unique to NHR, students will be given a placement test. As many of you know, we have students from nearly every school in New Haven. We have students from surrounding districts. So what this placement test will allow us to do is to get a standard, as you can see here, ZPD score. So what that does is that identifies what the student's strengths are and what their areas of support might be, and gives them a level within the Myon program so that they can be introduced to just right books. So books that are, as it says here, appropriate for their level, but also challenging enough so they can develop their skills, not too difficult so they don't frustrate with the material. Again, similar to the interest inventory, the placement test does look a little bit different for our younger learners, our elementary students, whereas for our older kids, second and up, there's a lot more text and the questions are presented in just a little bit different way. So what I thought might be helpful is to there's two videos I'm going to share with you guys that introduce you to what the elementary dashboard and student setup might look like and what the secondary looks like. I may need to actually stop sharing my screen for just a second and reshare with audio. Bear with me just a second, everybody. So if I share this with sound, we're going to go ahead and get
Are you ready to start using Myon? All you need is your login
oh no.
information from your teacher, and you can have access to thousands of digital books. Myon has so many books you will want to read. Adventure, exploration, scary stories, weird facts, mysteries, animals, humor, princesses, superheroes, and much, much more. Are you ready to get started? Great! The first time you log into Myon, you'll be asked to choose what kind of books interest you and what language do you prefer to read in. If you find a topic that you really like, put a happy face. If you don't like a topic, put a sad face. Once you're done, click the Save button. Every student that uses Myon gets their own personalized dashboard. Here you can find how much time you spent reading, the last book you opened, projects assigned by your teacher, and even a few recommended books. When you find a book you want to read, just hover over the title and click the green Read button. If you want to see even more books, you can check out the Myon Library. Just like a real library, the Myon Library helps you find great digital books. It is divided into 4 sections. First is the recommended books section. Here you will find books that are based on your interests, your grade, and your current reading level. This is a great place to find books that you really want to read. I always like to check out the new books and also use the drop-down to find books related to a specific theme. Mayan also gives you the option to browse through a selection by category. In the Browse tab, you will be able to visually search through the thousands of books that are available to you in Mayan. Just click on any topic to see the books in that section. Today, I'm looking for something scary to read. Oh wow, look at all the scary books I found. Sometimes you'll find a book you want to save for later. Don't worry, you won't have to search for the book if you add it to your favorites. When you hover over a title you like, just click on the heart button. That adds the book to My List. Just like a personal bookshelf, you can organize your favorite books by using Mayan's bundle feature. You can watch our bundles video if you want to learn more about this feature. Finally, if you still can't find the book you want, you can always use the advanced search. For example, if I want to read books about basketball, I just type that word into the search and click the magnifying glass. Boom! All the basketball books will show up. You can search for a particular author, title, or topic. If you get too many books, you may want to start using filters. You can limit your search to just books at your reading level or grade level, for example. You can even search for books in other languages. Most of the time, you will just pick out books to read for fun, but sometimes your teacher will assign specific books to you using projects. In the Projects tab, you can see any projects that were assigned to you. A project might include books to read, or it might have tasks to complete. For example, I have to finish this graphic organizer and complete a writing activity. Whether you choose a book for yourself or select one from your teacher's list, Mayan will track how many pages you read and how much time you spent reading. The more you read, the better a reader you become. When you get to the end of the book, you can see how much time you spent. If you read all the pages and spent enough time reading, you can count the book as complete. Just click the button that says, I have finished this book. This will take you to the ratings and review page. When you finish a book in Mayan, you can rate it by clicking on the stars. The more you like a book, the more stars you should give. Mayan uses this rating to help find more book recommendations. You can also write a short book review if you want. Tell why you liked or didn't like the book. If your teacher approves your review, it will be shared anonymously to other readers in your school. That's pretty cool. After you save your review, Mayan will take you into a short book quiz. There are 5 multiple choice questions to see how well you understood the book you just finished reading. When you submit the quiz, you can see how well you did. If you don't like your score, you can reread the book and take a new quiz with different questions. The more you read, the more chances you have to improve. If you want to even get more detailed information about your reading, you can check out your reading profile report. This is a printable report that shows you the last 6 books you read and details about your reading habits. With Mayan, you can read and engage with books from anywhere at any time. I hope you learned a lot about Mayan in this video and are excited to start reading. How will you use Mayan today? Thanks for watching.
All right. So that was a whole lot of information. Natasha, how are we doing on time? Do we have time for the second video for the older kids?
We're at 5:35. So as long as we have time for questions. Depends on how long it is.
It's about another 5 minutes.
It's probably fine.
All right, super. Let's take care. Let's do that too. So I'll share that. It looks just a little bit different for our older kids. I'll go ahead and share that.
Hey, are you ready to start using Mayan? All you need is your login information from your teacher, and you can have access to thousands of digital texts. Mayan has so many books you'll want to read. Adventure, romance, horror, weird facts, mysteries, animals, humor, graphic novels, and much, much more. You can read on Mayan from any device that connects to the internet. You can use your smartphone, laptop, desktops, tablets, and even different gaming consoles. If the device can connect to a web browser, You can read a book on Mayan. If you want to read books offline, Mayan even has apps for specific tablets. The app lets you download books for offline reading. The first time you log into Mayan, you'll be asked to choose what kind of books interest you and what language you prefer to read in. Click on Most Interest for topics that you really like to read, and Least Interest for topics you're not interested in. Once you're done, click the Save button. Every student that uses Mayan gets their own personalized dashboard. Here you can find how much time you spent reading, the last book you opened, projects assigned by your teacher, and even a few recommended books. When you find a book you want to read, just hover over the title and click the green Read button. If you want to view even more books, you could check out the Mayan library. It is divided into 4 sections. First is the recommended books. Here you will find books that are based on your interests, your grade, and your current reading level. You could check out the newly released books and also use the drop-down to find books related to a specific theme. Mayan also gives you the option to browse through a selection by category. In the Browse tab, you'll be able to visually search through the thousands of books that are available to you in Mayan. Just click on any topic to see the books in that section. Today, I'm looking for books about space travel. It just takes me a few clicks and I'm able to find all the Earth and space science books available to me in Mayan. I can even sort books by category: fiction, non-fiction, and graphic novels, which are my personal favorite. Sometimes you'll find a book you'll want to save for later. With the My List feature, you can do just that. So when you hover over a title you like, just click on the heart button. That adds the book to My List. Just like a personal bookshelf, you can organize your favorite books by using Mayan's bundle feature. You can watch our bundles video if you want to learn more about this feature. Finally, if you still can't find the books you want, you can always use the advanced search feature. For example, if I want to read books about music, I can just type that word into the search and click the magnifying glass. Now all the books related to music will appear in your search results. Sometimes you have to use multiple search words to find all the books you need. If you get too many books, you may want to use filters. You can adjust your search results to be based on your reading level and click the magnifying glass again. See? Now there are just books at my reading level. You can also search by grade level. You can even search for books in other languages. Look, here's some Spanish books in my grade level. Wow, I always wanted to read this. Mayan offers users the option to switch the interface language. If your school has turned this feature on, you can click the 3 lines in the bottom right of your screen and pick the language you prefer. For example, if I click Espanol, all the buttons and text in the page will be in Spanish. Remember, if you open a book that's written in English, the book will display in English. Only the controls on the book player will be in Spanish. Most of the time, you will pick up books just to read for fun. But sometimes your teacher will assign specific books to you using projects. In the Projects tab, you can see any projects that were assigned to you. A project might include books to read, or it might have tasks to complete. For example, I have to finish this graphic organizer and complete a writing activity. Whether you choose a book yourself or select one from your teacher's list, Mayan will track how many pages you read and how much time you spent reading. Studies show that there's a direct correlation to reading time and reading comprehension. Mayan cares that readers spend quality time reading a book. Books are counted as complete only if you read all the pages and spend enough time reading. Once you have finished reading a book, just click the button that says, "I have finished this book." This will take you to the ratings and review page. You can rate titles by clicking on the stars. You can also write a short book review if you want. Tell why you liked or didn't like a book. If your teacher approves your review, it will be shared anonymously to other readers in your school. After you save your review, Mayan will take you into a short book quiz. There are 5 multiple choice questions to see how well you understood the book you just finished reading. When you submit the quiz, you can see how well you did. If you don't like your score, you can reread the book and take a new quiz with different questions. The more you read, the more chances you have to improve. If you want to even get more detailed information about your reading, you could check out your reading profile report. This is a printable report that shows you the last 6 books you read and details about your reading habits. Mayan gives you the freedom to read and engage with books from anywhere at any time. I hope you learned a lot about using Mayan in this video and are excited to start reading. How will you use Mayan today? Thanks for watching.
All right. So that was a whole lot of information. I recognize that. So what I thought I would do is just go over some helpful hints, particularly with the recommended tab. As they said, this is based on students' interest from their interest inventory, their age, and their reading level, which will be their ZPD through their placement test. So as they mentioned, it's a great place to start, but also you can look into the projects, and that would be where the site directors or Mary made some recommendations for that student in particular. So browse or search, there are 2 options there. Helpful hint, browse will not allow students to narrow titles by level, but rather if you were to go into, let's say, the science books, all the books that are displayed for science will be in sequential order, ranging from the earliest grades up through high school. So something just to keep in mind. You can sort between fiction, nonfiction, graphic novels as they shared. So if your student's particularly interested in graphic novels, that might be a good option. Another helpful hint, search will provide students with different funnels or filters. That's what this little icon is up here. So if that's the case, then you can sort your results that way. In this example on the screen, they searched for ocean, and so now you can pin that down into a more appropriate level for that student. The ATOS levels, that's in alignment with their ZPD. Lots of acronyms here, but the idea is helping our students find the just right books for them during their read aloud portion. So this wasn't really covered in the introduction video, but I thought it was important to note. As a team, we're still exploring a lot of the functionalities of Mayan. There are a whole lot of resources and features that we will learn alongside of you. But a couple things to point out, there is there's a toolbar that will appear while the students are reading. So there's a dictionary option. They can click on that for unknown words. They can use the highlighter function. They can put a sticky note up that you can see an example here of. And then other pages. Mary, are you with us? Do you want to talk just a quick second about other pages?
Yeah, other pages is really great because it has a glossary, so you can go over the vocabulary words. It has an index that oftentimes looks at the different chapters, so you can read the chapters ahead of time and do some phrase practice. It also has questions about the text. Not multiple choice questions, but most of them bring in background information for the kids to really get a connection to the story. And it comes with a writing prompt. So there are a lot of things that you can do before reading, like the glossary and the index. And then there's a lot of things you can do after reading, and they all tie into vocabulary development and also comprehension, another way of looking at comprehension. I love that they have multiple choice questions, but I also love that they have questions that require a short sentence writing and then also bring background knowledge into the reading of the story.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
As I mentioned, we're exploring the resources here, and Mary mentioned the writing prompts. There's a journal. There's a journal icon that if the students want to jot some thoughts after they read, they can do that. And also circling back to bundles, our site teams will be using bundles to put together monthly themes as well. So that's a good place to start with your students if they're looking for something to read. One final reminder here, just remind your students to click on the I have finished this book button when they are done with a book, which as they mentioned will take you into the ratings or reviews and quizzes. Not necessary, not required, but it could be a nice extension or an activity for students to reflect on what they just read, to work on their comprehension skills. And it also might be something that you can do in place of Lexia, if that's how the sequence of your tutoring hour goes. So I just thought this was a really cool quote. Our team was trained last week and our trainer said, Mayan, it's like Netflix for books. So I told her I was going to borrow that quote. I told her I was going to use that today in our session together. So I thought I would put that up there. But I want to thank all of you again for being here. We're really excited to get started this summer. And please do share your feedback as we're exploring this new program and as we learn things together.
Awesome. So go ahead and shoot over some questions if you have them. We're going to open it up to the whole team that's here. So that's the site directors, Haley and myself, and try to answer your questions the best to our abilities. So I have one. So how are you classifying students as older or younger? I will have a 6th grader and a 4th grader. Are they considered older in the Myon?
I believe Myon starts the secondary level at 6th grade, 6th and up.
Awesome. And then will students be trained on Myon or a package for parents to set them up in advance?
That's a great question. I can talk to the team about that. We could share that video with our families if they wanted to watch that in advance to joining the session. The program's pretty intuitive, I think, and the students will be prompted there on their first login to take that interest inventory to set up their profile and set their levels for them.
Awesome. And then does Myon have read aloud books? And they do. So just like Epic, how you could sort of like a read aloud, click on the play button, Myon also has that feature as well.
Yeah, I think all books have that feature that you could actually have it read to them. So yeah, that feature's in all the books, but it doesn't start out reading. It starts off with a student reading.
Awesome. And then let's see. I'm not sure if I heard correctly, but if a student does not do well or does not like the results of the test, are they to read the entire book again? So for the quiz.
Yeah, so the quiz is optional. If the student wants to take the quiz to kind of test themselves, see how much they understood, they can go back and reread the story if they want to, but the tests and quizzes aren't required for them. It's just an option of something that they might be able to do.
Yeah, and it might give them an option to understand different questions depending on the wording. So they might choose to look at different wording, and then they're able to comprehend what the story is going on. Or they can go back into the text and look for it without reading the entire story.
Awesome. And I know this is really important for a lot of people, but it says, can tutors get access to the website so they can practice ahead of time with Myon?
I have requested a demo, and unfortunately I have not yet heard back, a demo login. I have not yet heard back, but that request is in place.
So when we get that, and hopefully we do, we will send it out to everybody so that you can go in and sort of check it out. Let's see, I saw a lot of nonfiction books. Are there real novels, classics, Newbery Award books? What kind of books?
Yeah, they are real books. That is something that our trainer last week mentioned, that they are real books. So if a student has a book they really enjoy and recommend to their friends or want a hard copy, they are real novels, which is pretty exciting. I haven't specifically searched for classics or Newbery Award books, but if we come across them, please do let us know.
Awesome. And then I think this is the last one. Did you say Myon will be used in person as well, or just for online sessions? So
just
I can
online.
answer that. Yeah, I can answer that. So just online. So this is replacing Epic. We found that Myon seems to be a better resource for our students, in particular, our older students, for the content that we have access to. Oh, it looks like we have one last one. Students can't read on their own, only while on the NHR site. So does that mean when they're at home, they cannot log into Myon without being at NHR?
I believe their login is accessible at any time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's accessible at any time.
Just like Epic was, where they can log in at any time. Awesome.
Really good questions.
More accessible than Epic was. Epic had certain time slots that you could get.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
All the books that are available during New Haven Reads time are available all the time.
Which is another reason why we switched to Myon. We should be like the promoters of Myon, ambassadors.
I used it before. I think it's a great program and it's very user friendly, so it's not difficult to figure out. So I think the kids will be able to figure out, and I think the tutors will be able to figure it out more easily than the EPIC program. And the variety of books they have is just fabulous.
Awesome. Well, if there's no other questions, this is sort of the wrap up portion of just saying thank you so much for all that you guys do for New Haven Reads and for our students. We're super excited to get summer started, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. We will be sending an email, sort of a wrap up email with everything in it of what we covered today. And obviously questions are always welcome.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Can I ask one of the leaders a question? I don't want to bore everybody else. Just like one-on-one or something, or 3-on-1, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to,
I don't want to keep. Okay, if I don't want to bore people, but this is just a technological question, and this always confuses me. So we have the website addresses to get to these various programs. Before we didn't. The student brought everything up, like Lexis and EPIC, right? So in this case, we bring it up, not the student?
No, it's the same thing. So the students are still going to bring it up. Yeah, so we're giving the students the access to Myon, and so they'll pull it up for you, and then you guys will work together through it.
And then all these programs they bring up themselves.
Correct. So the only one that we're using is Myon, and then the workbook. And then for the Lexia substitutes, it's kind of just, we have other websites that you can go to that are approved, but you just have to check with your site staff to make sure that you get that list of approved websites.
Right.
Which
So
are
like the
usually
one
for choice time.
Like Word Aloud and what's it? I'm sorry, I'm just reading it. I think once I get started, I'll be okay. It's like last time during the training, I was a little confused. So we have the website addresses for what reason?
So Sharon, the websites that I sent to you were for your resource to have alternatives for Lexia. So they are for you. Your student won't know about them. They're just things for you to give them to do. So the Spelling Bee website is for you to choose words for them to do as like a spelling activity. The Game Gal get to know questions are for you to choose questions that you want to ask to get to know your student. So they don't need them because you're going to choose questions that you want to talk to them about.
So it's not like a shared screen.
Right. You would never share your screen.
Oh, because I was wondering, how do I do that? Okay. So in other words, I bring it up and the student and I are just looking at each other, we're just talking.
Yeah. So it's a guide for you.
Oh, I see. Okay, great. I like the Myon, by the way. It looks great.
That's the only one that we would share. That's the only one that we would share the screen, and the student's going to share the screen for Myon.
Just the Myon. Okay, great. All right.
Just a quick question. Will the students still be able to bring up the screen and share the whiteboard with us?
Yes.
Remotely? So that what we've been doing that they can still do. Okay.
Yes, exactly. None of that has changed.
Nothing has changed as far as what we can share. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, it's just thinking that Myon is just taking over EPIC. We're not using EPIC. I mean, obviously we could use EPIC if you want to still, if there's like a specific thing that you love about it. You can ask your site staff about that if they're okay with it. But I think Myon is going to be far and above what anything that EPIC had to offer. Give it a try. Yeah, just give it a try.
A real quick question. Is for most of these students, the first time they encounter Myon will be with us?
Some students may have used it at school, but they will have a unique login specific for the New Haven Reads subscription.
Okay, but it's quite likely that the very first session we have with our 2T, they will be new to Myon just as we are.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, just so.
Yeah, so the first session, you're going to just guide them through that survey, and that'll be a good chance to talk to them too about what they like, what they don't like, what interests them. And then you can kind of, by that survey, you'll also know like what to look for with them.
Right. Will you, the site director, will you wait for that to put recommended books in, or will you go ahead and recommend books for them ahead of time?
I believe Myon does that automatically based on their survey.
Except if you're doing a project, when you're doing a project, then you recommend books based on your knowledge of what their scores are in reading that we did this past spring. So
I just wanted to say, I think the recommendations are important because while it is wonderful that Mayan has thousands and thousands of books, that itself can be overwhelming
Right.
for the students.
Oh, yeah.
And you could end up what I consider to be wasting an enormous amount of time by having them scroll through hundreds and hundreds of books. So if there's some way to really narrow that down so that we are not spending half an hour just scrolling through different books, that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, we
there's a lot of choice. Sometimes there's a thing is too much choice.
Right.
And I, you know,
Right.
just wanted to say.
I agree.
How will the, you know, so we can pick a grade level, but if the child doesn't read at that grade level and it's a new kid, how are we going to know what grade level to pick a book from?
Right. So that's why we have the placement test as a requirement at the beginning to put
At
the
the beginning,
students
okay.
at their just right level. Exactly. Yep.
So that comes after the interest inventory. Okay,
Correct.
I got it. Yeah,
Correct.
sorry,
Yep.
missed that.
Yep.
Yep.
No, I'm glad you asked. Thank you.
And Alice, that'll also help narrow down the number of books that they're going to get. It'll be books just in their level. And then from there, I think, but when you do the search, it's going to bring up all the books. So you kind of have to know what their level is so that you can, they're going to be in order from youngest to oldest. You can kind of scroll and get to where their section is and they can choose from that.
So my recommendation to kind of to your point, Alice, is yes, there are thousands of books they'll have access to. So I would say our starting points are the suggestions or the recommendations, or as they get familiar with it and they see a book that catches their eye, they add it to their list. There should be kind of our starting points there, or the projects that the site directors and the teams have assigned them.
Will we continue to submit after our sessions, the reports on what we did?
Yes.
Follow
Yep.
up each time? Okay.
Yep, it will still be the Google form. If you're
Okay.
coming in person, it's actually going to be a one-page sheet, which is very similar to the Google form, but it's just a sheet, not the folders, the notebooks. So it's a little bit different for in person. But no changes to distance learning for session notes. These are great questions. I love these.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, Pat. Did you have a question?
I have to unmute myself, sorry. So if we're coming in person, will the student have a folder the way they used to, or?
Good question.
So I'll answer that. Hi, Pat. So everybody coming in, there's going to be a bag with all the materials you're going to need for your tutoring session. We're going to have 2 whiteboards, 2 of the same books. So you'll read the same book as your student. You'll have your own copy of it. There's going to be pencils in there, and then you're going to just take one of those tutor forms to fill out while you're tutoring. Although we love it when everyone used to stay around and talk to us, unfortunately, we can't have that because we're going to need that time to clean everything. We've kind of simplified the form where you could just try to fill it out as you're tutoring and leave it as when the session's up, you can just leave it with us. But you'll have a bag. You won't have to go into the file cabinet at all. It'll be there for you already.
Thanks.
With the books already in it too. So
Right.
the students can't go and pick a book. The recommended books will be in there in the bag.
And will they take those materials home then and bring them back? the next
Oh,
day?
no. We'll never get them back. Yeah, no.
Yeah, true.
No, they're gonna just stay there.
How does the workbook work online? I'm not sure I'm clear on that. If there's 20 minutes on the workbook, how do we do that online? Do the students have that at home and we just watch over their shoulder?
So it's kind of the same thing that we're doing during the school year, where you have the option of coming to pick up a copy of it so that you have one at home, and then your student's going to come and pick up their copy too. Or you have a link that your site staff can send you that you can see it digitally, and you can just follow along with them. We encourage you guys to use the camera, so have them write it nice and big on a whiteboard to show you the answers before they put it into their book. Just sort of working together to kind of figure out what's the best strategy of how you're going to work through the workbook together.
Do you have a preference as to whether we come and get a copy of the book and use it physically, or or use the use a website?
Totally up to you, Wes, what you feel more comfortable with. So if you're okay with going into our Boxed account and being able to ask the student, what lesson are you in, what page are you on, and follow along that way, if that's easy for you. Or if you want a hard copy at your house, we have copies that you can come take from the site staff. So it's totally up to your comfort level.
So I have one more question. Are we going to be getting the same students if they're also doing the summer session?
Yes, if you had a student in the spring who is doing summer, we have tried the best possible to match you guys together based off availability. So as long as your availability matches theirs, then we've matched you together. But again, it's totally up to what I call it, like the magic. It's like, okay, does it all work together to make that pair happen? So we will do the best we can if your student continued for the summer to match you with them.
And we'll learn beforehand who we have and what time. Correct?
Yes.
No, I mean, won't wait until the first session, but we'll be told beforehand, get emailed or something.
You should be getting confirmations about your summer schedules.
Okay.
Yeah, from your site staff.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? These are all great.
Just a quick question for Ms. Haley, and I guess I have a situation with a couple of kids where I'm remote, and then immediately I am in person, and then vice versa. I'm in person, and then I'm in remote. I'm going to have my own laptop, bringing it with me. I just need access to Wi-Fi. So I'm going to pick it up from the outside at the table, or am I going to be sent to a little room with my kids?
I think we could do either or, Mr. John. We could do either or.
So you're gonna okay, fine.
Mr. John, I was wondering that myself, so I'm going to give it a test run on Thursday. I'm going to bring my computer and sit out in the parking lot and make sure.
Okay.
We're working with somebody who tested our Wi-Fi, and we seemed successful today. There were a few of us sharing the Wi-Fi, and it seemed to work pretty well. So, and we extended it. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Got you. Understand completely.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. If there's any, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, I wish I would have asked this question, you can always email us. We're here to answer any questions, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Have a good week.